Yes, guys, it's chasing green arrows time. It's me, it's Big Man Backer, and it's been a crazy week in FPL. Why, you might ask? Because there's not been any FPL action. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all. We've had FA Cup, we've had Carabao Cup, we've had injuries galore, and with that, it's all been relevant for FPL. So, me and Big Man are going to be addressing the three big questions, as well as revealing Big Man's team this game week. Hello to everyone in the chat. I can see Mark and CH and FPL Freddie and Bill. All the big names are with us. Hello to all you lovely chasers. FPL Down Under in the house. Thank you guys for joining. Heather's with us. Loads of you. Thank you, team. We'll try and address some questions as well. Big Man, I've got the spinny wheel on Big Man. So I don't know if that's the same for you guys or if it's a me thing. I think it's a Big Man thing. So that's good. I'm still here. You can still hear me. If you can't, then let me know in the chat. Big Man will be joining. A few tech issues his end, hence the slightly slower start, but he'll be with us very, very soon. So shall we have a look at the three big questions before we bring them up on screen? Let me just go through what they're going to be. So the three big questions, let me just have a quick scroll. I think, well, you know some of them, right? You know some of them straight away. Pretty obvious. One big question is what to do with Salah and Son, but now, and perhaps more importantly, Trent. That's an interesting one. Another one I think centered around, hello, wait a sec, here we go. Early thoughts on chip strategy. That's a big one to discuss because blanks and doubles, 25, 26, 29, wildcard 30 maybe, doubles later in the season. We're going to talk all about that. Big Man's been doing loads of research on that one. I know he has. And then captaincy this week. We have to talk about captaincy this week, don't we? Because I'm torn for my team. Let me give you four names off the bat. You're going to laugh at the first one. Darwin is an option. Saka, Palmer, Foden, who by the way, I captained last week. You might remember. Hello to Geddy in the chat as well. Nice background, Janny says CH. Yeah, I've put shirts up. I don't always have shirts. I've gone for backs of shirts and I wanted to go, I was going to do all number 10s and I went, no, I fancy putting Ronaldo in. Can't do backs of the shirts and not use my R9 shirt. I don't have many number 9s though. Ibrahimovic, that is next to Ronaldo in the Juventus shirt, by the way, if interested. That is a Juve shirt. And then the one next to that, the white one, that is a Roma Totti shirt that is match worn. It smells of his BO still. You pay the big bucks for that. You pay the big bucks. Like, if you buy a match worn, you don't want it washed. I want to smell Totti. I don't care. I want to smell Totti. Where is Big Man? I think he's on the way. Guys, are we hitting... I'm just opening my blind a bit. Are we hitting likes and subscribes? Have you seen the deadline's been moved? The deadline... Yes, Italian football was the best in the 90s. Good times. Geddy, it's funny you say that. Me and the producer were just having a chat off air about that. You're so right. It was the epicenter of football. And then the Premier League came and became the big boys. Where was I? The deadline. It's been moved till Friday, right? The Burnley-Luton game was originally scheduled, I think, for Monday. It's now Friday. What does that mean? It means a few things. One, we have to make our transfers earlier. Two, CGA is going to be streaming at around 1 o'clock, which is only a few hours before the deadline. So I hope that's going to be a good one for you guys. Come join us Friday lunchtime for me and Dean revealing our teams. And then, it also means we might not get a leak on Man City. Man City were playing or are playing in the late game on Saturday. With a Saturday deadline, there's a very good chance we get a leak. There's a very good chance an ITK account, there's one or two on Twitter that are in the know and have been doing very accurate info in the last few days, or weeks, months. They might tweet before the 11:30 deadline or 11 o'clock deadline and say, oh, Haaland starts, KDB starts, Doku starts, whatever. Probably not going to get that now. I can't see them making it with accuracy before the 6:15 deadline. 6:15 deadline on Friday, by the way. That Del Piero shirt, that season Juve won the Champions League. Borough fan here. Ravanelli did. Ravanelli left not long after that Champions League win. And that Juve team did lose a Champions League final. I think they won against Dortmund and lost to Ajax or vice versa in 2 years on the bounce. Like that Juve team, so good. I've seen in my lifetime Juventus lose like 6 Champions League finals, maybe 5. Load of them. Is it too early to think about Gianni smelling Totti? Yeah, I was surprised how small it was. Can you see it? So much smaller than my other shirts. Look at Messi, 10, Ibra 9. Obviously, that's a fit me, right? The Totti one, I thought would fit me. I thought Totti, but it's proper tight and it's Kappa, so it's like the skin tight. FPL fella, reckon the 6.15 deadline might catch people out. I hope so, fella. I'm all for that. I'm all for that. Jota or Bowen, says Luke. Oh, I mean, look, fella's in the chat. Fella's the person to speak to about Jared Bowen. It ain't looking. There's mixed reports. Yesterday, the Athletic were reporting every month. Today, there's more positive news. Whatever the suggested report, I've no doubt the Athletic's report was fairly accurate. It's suggested to be a month. But Jared Bowen ain't a normal footballer. Jared Bowen is a different animal. This isn't a guy that grew up in Premier League academies with, wrapped up in cotton wool. This is a farmer from Herefordshire. This guy is nails. This is a guy that's missed 2 games of football in his professional career. Jared Bowen takes to injuries very differently than a lot of the prima donnas you'll see in the Premier League. This guy is built different. Jared Bowen is built with a mindset of a rugby player, farming stock. I wouldn't be surprised if Jared Bowen out of nowhere, he's going to miss 21, but plays 22. Would I buy him? Probably not. I'm not buying him, but I wasn't buying him anyway. Would I sell him if I owned him? Probably not. Probably not. I don't think I would. Guys, we are going to be with Big Man in 10 minutes maximum, I think. He's had a power cut. These things happen. So with the Big Man power cut, I think that's good news for you guys. It means we get a slightly longer stream than normal because I'm going to do an hour. So I'll be leaving at 2. But Big Man, I think generously, I think I'm going to twist his arm to go, can we do a 15 or 10-minute Q&A with Big Man at 1 o'clock? Producer will let me know in the chat if he wants me to suggest that. But I can definitely suggest that if Big Man's up for it. Good evening to FPL Chai. Who is world number? Is he 11? Chai, where in the world are you, Chai? I think you're 11, aren't you? Last year we had Ali Yahangarov. This year we've got FPL Chai. 2 chasers. Ali went on to win FPL. Don't want to put any expectation on Chai, but if you do anything but win, mate, you're going to be a disappointment to me. You're going to be a disappointment to Chasing Green Arrows. You have to go and win this thing. I can joke because he's my mate. Chai is 11th in the world. Amazing season. Whatever you do from now on, mate, you've absolutely smashed it. To be to top 20 for as many weeks as you've been at this point in the season, clearly, this isn't a guy that's having a good season out of nowhere. Chai finished in the top 2 or 3K last year. This man, which by the way, I've never done. I've never had a 2 or 3K rank. So Chai, elite manager who has got his own YouTube channel now. He's doing his own content. Chai and I are very similar in terms of, we were chatting this morning. FPL Chai, who's world number 11, has a very similar thought process to FPL as me. He likes the same players he captains the same players I like. We both captain Foden. I can only name you one other person that I know that captained Foden. Chai was the other one. Two, I can name you 2. We've made the same early transfer maybe in the last few weeks. We've got our eyes on the same players this week. We're really similar. And I'm like, dude, why aren't I world number 11? So that's annoying because the other manager I'm really similar to is Ali Yahangarov. Ali Yahangarov, who won FPL. And I'm like, why haven't I won FPL? So honestly, I reckon there's 3 managers out there I'm similar to. Late Riser, who you might watch from FPL Wire, FPL Chai, and Ali Yahangarov. One's won it, one's number 11, and one's one of the best managers in the world. And I'm like, I feel a little bit hard done by here. But look, this is a game full of luck, and maybe I just haven't had it, or maybe they're just better managers than me. Best entertainment in FPL by a mile, says Rich. Rich, that is awesome. I don't see your name too much, Rich, so thank you so much. Keep it up, my man. Transfer out Darwin for Tony and captain him, legend. Rich is saying this because he knows it's something I can actually do. And look, we'll see my team reveal on Friday. I do own Darwin. My plan is Darwin to Haaland. And what are we doing with Haaland? We should all be thinking because, look, yeah, we don't need him this week. We don't think we do. By game week 22, Rich, we're all going to need Haaland, right? So if I was to go Tony, it'd just be for a week or 2. I don't really want to sell Solanke. I don't really want to sell Watkins. Darwin is obviously vulnerable, even if Liverpool double in 25. Because by the time they do, Salah will be back and that could affect Darwin minutes anyway. So my transfers this week are going to allow money in the bank for Darwin to Haaland next week. Whatever I do this week, I'm going to have enough money in the bank in game week 22 to, without a hit, by the way, bring in Haaland. And I think everyone should be thinking about that if you like the idea of Haaland. But Rich, that is a lovely super chat from you. And I know you would have hit the like button, and I know you subscribe to the channel. And I'm guessing, Rich, you also subscribe to my channel as well. So thank you for supporting, mate. Why haven't you won FPL, Janny? Havertz last season, Darwin this. Thanks, Mark. Well, I'm sorry, but FPL Chai has had Gabriel Jesus. Ali Hangroff has had Gabriel Jesus as well. You can have some bad picks and still win it, or still be very good at it. Don't forget Grealish, Mark. I don't think I've had Grealish, have I, CH? No, you're thinking Foden, CH. I've been a Foden fanboy for a very long time. Do you know what? I once went on the FPL show and Kelly, who presents it, called me the chair of the Phil Foden fan club. And this was years ago. And I'm like, I don't think there's a manager out there that has owned Phil Foden more than me in the last few years. Nice to see him playing to the best level he's ever played at, though, and finally getting me some FPL points. Still, though, he's one of those players. I'm like, let's do something in the chat. Let's name the players who play better than their FPL points achieve. So there's some players that maybe tick along with FPL points, but they're not actually great players. I would say Watkins is a better FPL asset than he is an asset. Watkins has got more FPL points than Haaland this year. He's not the best striker in the league. FPL Chai has just added one. Bernardo Silva, best player on the pitch so often, not a good FPL asset. Foden is a good FPL asset, but he's a better player. Foden's the best player on the pitch every game in the last month. Yet he hasn't been getting 15, 20 pointers. Sabotslai, that's a brilliant one. A lot of the answers here, fellas just hit us one, will be defensive midfielders. When Jorginho was the third best player in the world, Ballon d'Or, bronze Ballon d'Or, he weren't a good FPL asset. Rodri, great shout. He's actually doing well in FPL. Big man, how you doing, mate?
Hey, Johnny, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear, mate. Are you power cut free?
Wait a sec.
Good. When you can hear me, mate, you let us know. Looks like Werner has come in as a 6.5 forward, according to Kai. That is interesting. That is very interesting. I knew he'd be a forward because he was a forward last time, but technically he should be a winger. If you play wide, which I think he will at Spurs, or maybe he won't. Maybe he will play 9. 6.5 though. I'm not going there, but look, you wouldn't be surprised. I think now Richarlison buyers are going to be cautious. Richarlison buyers, and I include me in this as a potential Brennan Johnson buyer. I was looking for a cheap midfielder. I'm now cautious. FPL Chai is a Spurs fan. Not that a Spurs fan can help. They wouldn't know Timo Werner more than anyone else. In fact, I probably know more as a Chelsea fan. You know Timo Werner's XG at Chelsea? You're going to love this, guys. I tweeted it a minute ago. You're going to love this stat. At Chelsea, Timo Werner's XG, right? So he scored 10 Premier League goals without looking. Guess in the chat what his XG was. At Chelsea, for those that haven't seen my tweet and don't go cheating, Timo Werner scored 10 goals from what XG in the Premier League with Chelsea? What was his XG at Chelsea? He scored 10.
Hi, Johnny. I can finally hear you.
Good stuff, big man. You're joining us at a great time. We're playing a Timo Werner game, but before we get back to the answers, how are you, mate?
I'm good, bro. It's been a while. We've almost sort of forgotten about FPL's been on the back burner for quite a while, and we've come back to this chaos where all of our players are flagged, and most of us don't have half a team. So, yeah, a lot of people seem to be panicking. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm not too bad. All good. I'm happy with my team. I like the chaos. I love the chaos. Look, I hate my players getting injured. I hate red flags. But if they're a red flag on a player, everyone's got them. Trent, when Haaland was injured, Salah and Son going AFCON or Asia Cup. I love all that. When I saw the Trent news, I was buzzing. I actually sent a few of them guys in the chat. FPL Chai was one of them to my FPL WhatsApp group. I sent him a video being like, this is brilliant. Chai's injured. Trent's injured. I can do this. FPL Chai world number 11 is in the chat, by the way. And we're playing a game, which I'm going to have to address the answer to before everyone gets bored and then come back to our chat. I'm going to ask you for a guess, big man. 10 goals Timo Werner scored at Chelsea. What was his XG at Chelsea in the Premier League? Obviously more than 10, but how high was it?
17.7, I would guess. Somewhere between 17 and 18, I think.
Freddie said 15.6. Igedi says 57. There's lots of guesses. Yeah, it was 19. So well played to Luke and very close, big man. It was something like 9. Here we go. I'm just reading now because I tweeted it. 19.94. How mental is that? What a poor finisher he is.
I owned him for a large chunk of that
10,
season.
10 of that XG.
I more than that, actually. I kid you not. It was infuriating. It went to the point where a lot of people had sort of given up faith on him just with the eye test, but because his numbers were so good, I kept the faith. But he was just one of those. The points never came. The chances came, and they just fell away every single time.
Yeah. He's up there with a Darwin, a Jackson. Maybe it's unfair to say Hoyland, but I'd say Hoyland too at the moment. But yeah, there's a few forwards that aren't good finishers, which is surprising because I don't know how they've got to Premier. Like how do you get to that level in that position and not be a natural? Because you hear on Match of the Day, they're just not a natural finisher. I'm like, they're playing number 9 for Liverpool. They have to be a natural finisher. They're £70 million player. They have to be a natural finisher. So it always makes me smile. That. Like, why
Hoyland and Darwin, Hoyland and Darwin are the ones which come to mind. Almost the exact opposite of what Son and Kane were at Spurs. They were so lethal. Too good.
I did some research earlier this season where I look back every season Son's been in the Premier League, and genuinely, the league has never seen a finisher consistently deliver under their XG in terms or overachieve their XG. Like Son. Son is the best finisher the league has ever seen by a country mile. No one's even close. Like he's usually 5 XG, like under what he should have, or over. Can't get my head right on that. Amazing. We're lucky to have him.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, what are your plans with Son and Salah?
Yeah, love that. Let's look. We're going to address 3 big questions. Question number 1 is what to do with Son, Salah, Trent. Question 2 is going to be around, I think, chips, and 3 around captaincy. Then we're going to see Big Man's team. And at the end of the show, Big Man might do a little Q&A as well. So, Trent, Salah, Son. I'm not going to reveal too much because on Friday, I've got a team selection video. I'm just saying I may or may not have already sold one of these players. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
And I very much welcomed the Trent news yesterday. Wink, wink. My dilemma, Big Man, was... I think Salah could get knocked out at quarterfinal stage where he'll play Morocco, Ivory Coast or Nigeria. If that's the case, in 24 against Burnley, we're all going to be buying him back, which begs the question, should we keep Salah? Well, no, if you need the money, but yes, if you don't, and if you have a cash cow elsewhere to buy Haaland. And my cash cow might be a Saka, a Watkins or a Trent.
See, that's the key thing. Now, a lot of people are looking to get Haaland, and a lot of people, even though it sort of makes sense on paper to sell Son ahead of Salah, are in this position where if they sell Son, they can't get to Haaland in one move from, let's say, a Darwin or an Alvarez, right? Which obviously Haaland has to be a priority next week at home to Burnley is the standard captaincy option. So it's tricky, and I think it's very team dependent. But completely. I mean, if let's say if I was looking at it in isolation, I think I would sell Son first out of these 3. Simply because Liverpool are likely to have a double game week in game week 25, and Son is unlikely to have a double in game week 25. And because Trent, I think Trent is an easier keep than Salah because Trent, there's a chance he's back for Chelsea or Arsenal in game week 22 or 23. While with Salah, when you look at the bookies odds, I think a more realistic chance of him coming back would be in game week 24.
Yeah.
I mean, there's every chance that he might even miss game week 25, let's say if Egypt go all the way, but realistically speaking, you'd expect him to be back by 24. So yeah, as of now, with my own team, I think I'm likely to keep Trent this week, and if I'm sort of pushed into a transfer, then I might look at replacing one of Salah or Son. And again, it depends on the Haaland route and the Haaland plan. But if you're in a position where you can sort of afford to put out a decent team and roll a transfer this week, I think that's the play, because there's so much information to be had out there. Because at this point in time, I'm not even sure which midfielder is the one I want. I mean, I'm not exactly set on a specific midfielder. It's interesting that you've already made a transfer.
Yeah.
So it means that you must have been pretty set on someone. But I personally, in my team, I'm not as set on, let's say, Foden versus Richarlison. I think both of them are good options. I do think that these two, if you own Saka and Palmer, are the best replacements. But which way to go, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, Foden does not exactly have the best of fixtures this week. Richarlison is fine, I guess, against United, and I do expect him to get a greater share of expected minutes as well, with Son away and with Welly's injured as well, and he could even be on penalties this week. Um, so yeah, Richarlison is probably the one, I think, but it's a tough situation to be in, and ideally you want to give yourself that extra game week of information that we're likely to get before game week 22. Whether it be the Carabao Cup results, whether it be the FA Cup draw, the FA Cup results, a lot of things will change, and then this hazy picture in front of us will change, and we will get a lot more clarity before the next deadline.
Yeah, I think there's so much to waiting and holding. Some have to go early because they've got the exact funds and a price changes and they're set what they want to do. And others might have 2 free transfers and go, I can use one early because I've got a second transfer. So for me, that early transfer I made last night was knowing I've got a second transfer. And actually the second transfer, I still don't know what I want to do. I might roll, I might transfer out a midfielder. I want to watch Jota tonight, etc., etc. But that first transfer,
Yeah,
I
I
know
sort of get the hint what you've done. I think you've done Trent Estupinan.
possibly.
Yeah, I know. That's the transfer. Yeah.
So for me, it was about making money for Haaland, right? I need to be able to get to Haaland in 22, and I need a cash cow. And Salah was going to be that. But the more I look at that AFCON draw, I think there's a very good chance Salah's back in 24. And even if he's not, we're going to need him by 25. I don't care about the team value argument to holding Salah. Like, I don't care about 0.2. If you need those funds, you get it out of Salah. Don't worry about what you sell him for and what you buy him for. But for me, it was Trent facilitates Haaland in one move. And also, if I have made that transfer, I have to look at my defenders and go, can I actually get 3 defenders out this week? And when you've got Lascelles on your bench and you've got Taylor on your bench and you've got Trent in your 11, I'm at a potential only 2 defenders playing this week. And Taylor, obviously, we don't know. We should find more information about Taylor. We'll get a press conference. We might even get a leak. But Estupiñán is an exciting pick. But in midfield, there's also really exciting picks. And we'll talk about some of those key replacements. I think if you're replacing Trent, you could look at an Arsenal defender if you don't have 2 of them. I don't. You could look at Estupiñán. You could look at Gusto, but he did go off injured
Walker's
last
the one.
night.
I think Walker's
And
the
Walker.
one. Walker and Estupinan are nice. But yeah, with City having a likely double in 25,
Yeah.
and not blanking in 26, I think Walker is the one.
If Walker was the same price as Estupiñán, I probably would have gone Walker, or may have gone Walker.
He's 5. He's 5.4, so that's a
Yeah,
bit of a consideration as well.
We need every 0.5, 0.1 for Haaland back. That's the thing, especially
And Haaland hasn't dropped in price. It's just dropped 0.1. I mean, it's ridiculous though.
How has that happened?
I mean, I'm sure they've sort of manipulated it and stopped
85 to 50%
from falling. Yeah, I mean, you look at his sales over the last 2 to 3 game weeks. I mean, virtually half the game has sold him, yet he's dropped by just 0.1. So it has to be manual manipulation.
I think so. And the likes of Salah and Son are dropping as you'd expect. Midfielders, then, if you're selling Son or Salah, let's talk about some of the key assets. You've mentioned Richarlison. I think Werner will put people off Richarlison, even though Werner you don't expect to be in the 11 straight away, but he'll work his way in. Do we think outside of that? It seems silly talking too much about Jota until he's played tonight, but I think Jota's my top replacement. If you already have a Palmer and a Foden, they would be my number 2, my 1 and 2. If you don't have Palmer or Foden, I think they're really easy buys.
Yeah, Jota's fine. I think Jota is. He does have the upside, and you would expect him to sort of carry the goal threat for Liverpool in Salah's absence. The only thing that worries me is when you look at Liverpool's fixture schedule, Gianni, over the next 2 to 3 weeks, they're playing 5 games the next 2 weeks. I mean, some of them are FA Cup games, some of them are Carabao Cup games, and I mean, with Klopp, I'm not entirely sure. They could give him the odd game off here or there. He's considering he's just coming back from injury, so I'm slightly worried about his X minutes. But that's the point. I mean, it is a risky pick. I don't think a lot of people will go for him, but it's a high reward pick because you know that he has the potential to go big. The ceiling is definitely there. So yeah, I sort of like Jota, but uh, I mean, given the risk averse manager I am, I'm not personally considering him for my team, but I can see why someone like you would choose to go there.
Yeah, I have a second transfer, which I've said about, right? I've got the exact funds to go Son to a 6.4 or below and still have the money for Haaland next week. So my plan is with that second transfer, if Taylor is out, to buy a budget midfielder or 6.4 or less. Now, unfortunately, Doku is 6.5, which would be my pick. You guys know I would just back the Man City rotation risk because I'll play him in some games, not in others. And I think he starts versus Burnley. Gross is 6.4. Rich, you sent a super chat earlier. Thank you, Rich. He said Gross is a solid pick, and I like Gross as an option. The fixtures are amazing. One of the reasons I've picked Estupiñán is fixtures, and two, there's no European football for Brighton now till the 7th of March, up until game week 28. There's none of that fear of being exhausted and rotation. And then the other one, I guess, mentioned in the chat, rightly so, is Pedro Neto. So let's talk about those three assets, Neto, Doku, Gross. Who do you like there?
Yeah, I mean, let's touch on these budget midfielders. I think I like Gross the most out of all of these, just simply because he's on pens if he's playing in the number 10 role. I mean, on pens if Pedro isn't on the field, which is, which is often the case. It's
Possible.
not always the case, but it's often the case. And he's completely nailed on set pieces. Always tends to do well for bonus points, a bit of a bonus magnet because he creates plenty of chances. In fact, I was having a look at some of the numbers in recent times, and in the previous 8 game weeks, Gianni, Gross has been involved in nearly 50% of Brighton's big chances, which was surprising. Wow. So he's clearly integral to their style of play. And I mean, looking at those fixtures from Brighton, I'm sure we've got Estupiñán for that reason. I mean, those fixtures are dreamy, right? And so the entry point this week is just great. So from those I prefer Gross, but having said that, I mean, at that price, there are a couple of other names I'd like to mention as well. I think Eze, especially from next week, because this week it's a tough fixture against Arsenal, but Palace's run from next week is decent. And Eze, again, on penalty, Sheffield United at home next week, and then they have a decent run. I don't really mind Eze either for that price. And let's say if you are looking at a even cheaper enabler to go from, let's say, a forward to Haaland in one move next week, then in that case, I think even Garnacho is one who's sort of standing out in terms of his underlying data, and he's been playing well for United, and I think it's his place to lose. He's averaging nearly 0.5 non-pen XGI per game in the previous 7 to 8 fixtures. So the numbers are there. He's a decent pick for his price. I mean, I don't really expect him to have a high ceiling, but he can sort of chip away with some points every now and then. So I like Garnacho. I mean, I'll be honest, but from the ones we mentioned, I think Richarlison, Foden, and Gross are the ones I would seriously consider for my own team, just because of the pros they have in their favor.
I nearly bought in Gross last night. It was a fear he would rise. I woke up this morning and he didn't rise, and actually Estupiñán didn't either. But I just don't know if I like the idea of doubling up on. Look, Brighton's fixtures are great. It's just I still have a few trust issues there because they're only Brighton. Don't want to patronise them, but they're a very good attacking team, which is why I've backed them with Estupiñán. Do I want to double up with Gross as well? Yeah, maybe, because maybe. And that's who I'm definitely closest to. Sarabia's mentioned by Rich. I'd still prefer Neto if I'm going to go to Wolves, I think, Rich. Fella mentions Douglas Luiz, and CH says straight away, and she knows. Gianni doesn't like Douglas Luiz. Quite right, CH. I like him as a player, but not an FPL asset. He's an analytics pick, and I veer away. I just think differently to computers, and he's just not. I don't think I'll ever own a DM. Pens or no pens.
Jenny, I'd like to hear your thought process on Trent, really. So basically, if you're selling him now, are you sort of happy to go without, let's say, if Liverpool double in 25, and if he's back for Burnley in game week 24, are you sort of happy to accept going without him?
Yeah, I am. I might buy him back. But if I do, it would mean selling a Saka or a Watkins. So there is the option of buying him back for 24 if he's fit. But we also have to remember, yes, Liverpool could double in 25, but if they do, they're blanking in 26. So sure, I would miss out on some Trent points in 24 or 5. But I would argue a Stupinan can cover, and that not necessarily covering 24 and 25, but if you take a 5-game section of a Stupinan from now till game week 26, I think he gets more points than Trent between now and 26 because Trent misses the Bournemouth game. And even if he's back, it's then Chelsea Arsenal. And I know he can get points against anyone, but so can a Stupinan. So I'm happy risking that with Trent. Yeah, which is why I was open to the idea, I guess, of selling him. And I also think that Chelsea and Arsenal game comes so close together. If he misses one of them, if he's not back for Chelsea, 3-4 days later, he plays Arsenal. There's a very good chance if he misses Chelsea, he misses Arsenal too. So you could be without an asset till 24, which is exactly the same as Mo Salah, potentially.
I think in your case, it slightly made more sense to sell him because your bench is already weak with Lascelles and Taylor if he's out injured. It was kind of forced. I have Saliba in that position, so I don't necessarily have to make that transfer.
Yeah,
but yeah, I sort of agree with the notion that Estupinan will probably outscore Trent in the next 6 game weeks. But then again, you sort of have to factor in the fact that you're using a transfer to sell him and then to buy him back as well. So
yeah, I wouldn't be doing that with Salah. If you do it with Trent, you don't do it with Salah. And if you hold Trent, you're probably selling Salah.
Yes, exactly. So it's basically again for some people it's basically Salah funds Haaland in one move. For others it's Trent and let's say Son like yourself, which can then sell a fund Haaland, right? So I do think there will be plenty of variance in the weeks to come, especially when we reach double game week 25 and game week 24 as well. But yeah, that'll be a very critical point in the season, I feel, because a lot of chips will be played. A lot of people will be without Salah. Others will be without Trent. Some will triple cap Haaland. Others will triple cap Salah. So it's going to be a very exciting week.
Yeah,
it's going to be a very exciting week. Let's actually sort of jump into the chip discussion now that we've sort of touched upon it. So from what we know so far, it is looking very likely that game week 25 is going to be the week to use the triple captain. I mean, there will be opportunities, I'm sure, later on in the season, but they don't really seem as exciting. I was actually having a look at some of the fixtures for the potential doubles later, and the likes of Haaland. I mean, Haaland could have something like Fulham or Brighton or Fulham or Spurs later on in the season, but it doesn't really seem as exciting as Brentford at home and Chelsea at home in game week 25. So that opportunity, or even Salah. I mean, Salah is going to have a Luton at home fixture in game week 25, along with Brentford away, I think. So I mean, those 2 fixtures are nice. And I do think that there will be other opportunities to play, let's say, the free hit chip. So when you're looking at the free hit chip, the argument of playing it in 25 is Liverpool, basically. So basically, someone like you or me who have 2 or 3 Liverpool in our squads, we can just basically say, okay, we can sell Salah, we can sell Trent, and we can sort of maximize the weeks around game week 25. And in game week 25, when Liverpool have a favorable double, what we'll choose to do is that we'll free hit. There's that argument. But having said that, there will be other opportunities to play the free hit chip as well, which will be, for example, in game week 29, which will be a big blank game week where we're expecting around 4 or 5 games to be played and the others to be blanks. Other than that, there'll be double game week 34 or double game week 37, which is likely to be the biggest double game week of the season. And the key thing is that that I was listening to the Planet FPL podcast, and there James and such were discussing, and they sort of referred to the fact that it's looking likely that different teams will be doubling in game week 34 as opposed to those in 37, which was similar to what happened last season as well. And if that does happen, then that sort of gives more authenticity to the idea of free hitting in that week, because it would obviously increase the appeal, because you could sort of wildcard in 30 or 31 to set yourself up for 34 or 37, and the other week you can just choose to play the free hit. So long story short, there will be other weeks to take advantage of the free hit. But as of now, it is looking that game week 25 will be the best week to play the triple captain itself. And even in that week itself, it's going to be a very hot debate between Haaland and Salah as to who the best captain will be.
I think it's really interesting because I have no doubt that will be the window to triple captain, because we want flexibility over some of our other chips. Like, we can commit to a strategy for 37 or wildcard in 31, whenever, but those plans change. With the triple captainship, getting it out the way is the wrong term, because it's valuable and we love it. But you will find very few windows that compete with what we'll see in game week 25. And those windows will allow you other chips. In 25, for me, they're not really... I don't think I'd be competing with any other chips, although you mentioned you could free hit in 25. I don't think that would be where I am, where I'll probably have 2 or 3 City and 2 or 3 Liverpool already. The Champions League does kick back in November, in mid-Feb, same as game week 25, so around the same time. So we could see... I don't know if we'd see the fixtures sandwiched between Champions League. I think it'd be Champions League, then game week 25, 2 fixtures. And for Man City, they do have a good draw against Copenhagen. I'm not saying they won't be full strength. Of course they will be. It's the Champions League. It's a knockout game. But just bearing in mind, it is around a time in the season when fixtures are tight and the schedules are tough. But for Man City and Liverpool, it's also a time in the season where no one can take the foot off the gas. It's approaching the final stretch. It's approaching... We're in it to not drop any points now. We win the next 10 games and we win the title. And I do think backing Liverpool and City in those months from February onwards, it's when they kind of click into 5th gear.
Yeah.
So again, I'm never happy with... Let's say we were presented with a double game week in November for Haaland with 2 pretty good fixtures. I'd still have been really put off, because I'd been like, City aren't up to scratch yet. February, they will be.
Yeah, again... Another argument against the free hit in 25 is that, some of the single game week players, such as, let's say, the Chelsea, Newcastle, all these teams, even Spurs are playing Wolves at home. So all these 3 teams have good fixtures in game week 25. So I don't think game week free hitting in game week 25 just for the sake of being able to sell Trent and Salah this week makes sense, because, when you look at the bigger picture, it does make more sense to use the triple captainship in game week 25. And while I completely agree with your argument that City and all these big teams are likely to click into gear at this point, there's also the factor to consider that maybe when the next best opportunity to play the triple captainship will be, which is likely to be in game week 37, who knows, the title race might be over by then. That's a long time away, and by that time, you never know whether Haaland's going to be even fit, or some other popular captaincy option might not be available. And at that point, it's just very difficult to predict lineups, because rotation is likely to hit, because a lot of teams are practically on the beach. So yeah, when you are getting an opportunity to play it in plum home fixtures, then it is very, very difficult to sort of say no to it. And yeah, the bench boost can then be sort of played in conjunction with the wildcard. The window seems to be either in game week 30 or 31. 31 sort of seems more popular, because that's when City and Arsenal are going to have a very good run of fixtures. And yeah, 34, 37 are looking likely for both the bench boost and the free hit. And yeah, so why we're discussing this at this point is that what is important now for people is this week, it is important for people to keep as flexible as possible, not to commit to a strategy for game week 25 yet, and make sure that you're in a position come the game week 22 deadline where you can then be able to decide who the best Salah or Son replacement is, and what your ideal route is to get Haaland back, at the same time keeping options open for game week 25. That's the main takeaway from it. If you can sort of afford to save a transfer and put out a decent team, make sure you do that this week.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. And game week 29 blank, I think we will just work out. Like, don't be too worried about that yet. And we might be in a position where you're dead ending your team. So yeah, you've got to sell a City or an Arsenal player to bring in a Wolves asset. But then 2 weeks later, you reverse that. And if you happen to only get 7 or 8 men out, it's probably going to be one of those really low scoring game weeks. For me, it's not one I'd want to use a free hit on. But let's wait and see what the FA Cup brings. Captaincy this week, big man. We got another question before we see your team. Guys, if you're enjoying the stream, do hit that like button, but most importantly, subscribe with that notification bell as well. Captaincy discussion this week, big man. I say there are 4, maybe 5 assets to discuss. Your Foden and Alvarez pick, your Man City forward, your Liverpool forward if you've got one, Jota, Darwin, Palmer, and then your Arsenal, let's say Saka. And we should probably always consider Watkins because he's in so many of
Even
our teams.
Richarlison is an outside shout. He's not bad.
You reckon? Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, he's a good shout this week with the expected minutes and penalties. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
are you at if you were to rank them at the moment in your head? Like rank your top 3 and I'll do the same. It's so tough.
I think Saka and Palmer are above the rest. In my opinion. Yes. And then maybe Alvarez would be third. I'm not really sure which one of Saka or Palmer is better, but if I was to sort of pick one, I would slightly lean towards Saka at the moment, but I'm not exactly set on the captaincy. And because so much is going on with the blanks and doubles and all these injuries, I haven't really given as much thought to captaincy as I normally do. But I think as of now, I'm leaning 60-40 towards Saka for the captaincy. My vice captain will almost certainly be Palmer in that case, because Saka is playing, like, I think it's 8 or 9 days after the game week deadline, and I would ideally want to have a vice captain who's playing on the day of the deadline or immediately after, which is basically Palmer on Saturday. So yeah, I mean, that's my pecking order. What are your thoughts?
I think you're right with Saka, definitely one of the top 2. After watching Chelsea against Borough last night, whilst Palmer clocked an XG of over 1, by the way, and played up front, he won't play up front because Broja returns at the weekend, and Poch has said Broja will start, which is good. You don't want Palmer playing up front. It's not always a good thing. I just have a few issues with Chelsea. I mean, I'll wait and see how Fulham look tonight. Fulham will have a day's less rest than Chelsea, is worth noting. But for me, I'd have Palmer at 3. And then I'm between Foden and Saka for my 1 and 2. And I wonder if I had Alvarez, if I would put Alvarez at 3 and Palmer at 2 as big man has. But because it's Foden who's playing arguably better football and perhaps got more points potential because he gets the extra point for a goal, because he gets the clean sheet point, if that puts Foden above Alvarez in the order and therefore in our top 3 order as well. Newcastle have been on the ropes. Their XG against them in the last 6 games has been dire. Like 20 XG against them in the last 6 game weeks compared to the second worst, which is around 12. Like, they're in a different league to everyone, but they've had time on the training ground now. They're playing at home and they're all back fully fit. Defenders are. I still think Man City could batter them 3-4-0 if they score early, but it's so game dependent. And I just look at Arsenal and go, it's the easy home fixture on paper. Palace haven't been great defensively. Arsenal's underlying numbers have been good. They just haven't been finishing. They also get a week in the sun. Arsenal have got a week in Dubai at the moment, and Saka needs a rest. Saka's going to have had a rest. So I think, and perhaps we should do an early poll. I can see Rich has suggested a few names as well. So we can poll Palmer, Foden, Alvarez as 1. Palmer as another, Saka as another, and see where you guys are thinking. But I think I'm Saka 1.
Yeah, I'm sort of tempted to go Saka simply because I do think that Arsenal have been playing well and they just haven't been converting their chances, right?
Very well, yeah.
So they are due a big result, and I do think they're likely to hammer someone 4 or 5-0. And I think this fixture might be the one.
Yeah. The Liverpool-Bournemouth fixture is interesting. If Liverpool go and win 3-4-0 tonight and you own Darwin or Jota and you're confident of a start, you might go, that game against Bournemouth could be a basketball match. It could be end-to-end. I'm not sure Liverpool even win that. Bournemouth are very good.
Bournemouth are good, especially at home.
Yeah, but you don't need Liverpool to win the game to back Darwin or Jota. You just need Liverpool to score, and their attack has been brilliant, phenomenal.
The only thing that would put me off is the fact that without Salah and Trent, the creativity might suffer. So
yes,
yeah, I mean, this seems like a banana skin kind of fixture for Liverpool, where I do think that they could slip up. And yes, I fully expect them to score, but I mean, I'm not entirely sure whether any of their attackers would haul big is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I hear that. We've done a poll, which is great. So feel free to vote, guys. If you have Alvarez and you have Darwin, vote Foden or Jota. It's that Liverpool attack or Man City attack. But it does feel like the majority will still go to Saka or Palmer. The home advantage is big. And again, we're voting in that way. Perhaps one reason we don't like Liverpool attackers or Man City attackers as much is purely they don't play at home. If Foden was at home to Newcastle, I'd be here right now saying I'm set on my armband. It's the away, it's traveling and playing in a stadium with the 12th man and Newcastle's home record. And perhaps the same with Jota or Darwin. I'd be like, home to Bournemouth. Yeah, I'm going to captain that Liverpool player. Genuinely, I think it's the home away advantage, which is why Palmer and Saka are the two favourites.
I think I sort of agree. Let's jump into my team, Johnny. I have a lot of questions
let's
actually.
have a look. Come on, let's have a look at it. How are you set? And remind us your free transfers and money in the bank.
I have 1.2 million in the bank, and this is my team. I mean, it's kind of all over the place right now. I have a lot of flags. Salah is not going to play. Son is not going to play. Trent is not going to play. So these three players are automatically ruled out, which basically gives me an 11, which includes Charlie Taylor, who might not play as well against Luton at home. And yeah, I'll be playing Gordon at home to City, which isn't ideal, but I sort of don't have a choice and my hands are tied. And I'll be playing Areola over Dubravka because of the better fixture. So there are a couple of routes I can sort of choose. I think a lot depends on Charlie Taylor's injury update tomorrow. We're likely to have a press conference because it's a Friday night fixture.
Yeah.
So let's say if Taylor is past fit, then I could sort of roll into next week. I don't really think I have to make a transfer because, as I've said earlier, there's a lot of information to be gained. And because I'm not entirely sure who the best Salah or Son replacement is, there is some merit to rolling the transfer. Yeah. And let's say if Charlie Taylor isn't fit, then I'm down to 10 men. Then obviously I'll have to make the free transfer. And in that case, I would probably sell Son, I think, for Richarlison. I think that's probably what I'm going to do. But yeah, Foden is an option as well. I could choose to sell Salah instead. But again, just to have maximum flexibility, I think I'd probably sell Son, but I'm not entirely sure. What do you suggest?
If Taylor's fit, it's an easy roll for me, just because for you, 2 free transfers to get Haaland back is going to be needed. If you do make a transfer and you go Son to Richarlison, that doesn't give you enough money to go Alvarez to Haaland next week, does it? You'd need to take a hit for Haaland next week.
See, that's the thing. If I do, the only way I can fund Haaland in one move is if I sell Salah for Richarlison or Gross.
Or Trent.
Right? No. If I sell Trent, I can't. Let's say if I sell Trent to Superman, I can't jump from Alvarez to Haaland in one move. I'll have
How
to
short
take a hit.
are you? Could you go Trent to a 4 million playing defender or a 4.2?
No. I'm extremely short. I'll have to sell Son as well.
Right, okay. And you can't sell Son to a budget mid either. That's still not enough money.
Yep, exactly.
To go Haaland in one move.
Exactly.
So if I'm making a transfer and I'm you, I'm selling a player that allows Haaland next week without a hit. So I'm selling Salah. So I think I would Salah to Foden, for example.
Foden won't do it. Foden won't fund it. That's the thing.
How much you got to spend? 7-ish.
I have 7 exact on the dot. So Richarlison will be enough.
Yeah, I'm glad you've looked. I've done obviously the exact stuff last night. I would be tempted by Pascal Gross or Doku, but no, not Doku this week because you need a guaranteed starter. That's the thing
with the thing with Richarlison is that that sort of blank in 26 is sort of off-putting, especially when I've got Porro and Palmer. And let's say if I already have Trent and if I get Salah back, it's going to be very, very difficult to negotiate.
That put me off Richarlison too. Look into 26. Knowing we're not using a hit, we won't want to use free hit in 26. There's going to be such low upside.
Think I'll be. Yeah, I won't be free hitting in 26 exactly.
Salah to Pascal Gross.
Salah to Pascal Gross is doable. Yeah.
Genuinely, Gross is the guy I'm looking at because he plays in 26.
I like Gross. I don't really mind, honestly. He's a good pick. He
could play in 29. Unlikely, but he could play in 29.
I mean, I'm not looking at 29.
Don't
29
worry
is
about
too far
29
away.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah, 29 is too far away. I mean, immediate worry is 25, 26.
But if you get Taylor fit, which as a Taylor owner, mate, I've done some research on this too. So originally they were planned to play Monday night, right? And the fixture got moved to Friday, hence the deadline moved.
Yeah.
The quote from Company, or maybe it was one of his assistant coaches, I read in the Lancashire local paper yesterday. I think it's Lancashire. Was something along the lines of indicating that Taylor might be available on Monday, but he's going to need time. There was 2 players injured. I think Foster went off injured too.
Evan Foster as well. Yeah.
It was more positive on Foster than Taylor in the quote I read.
Yeah.
Now the game's moved to Friday. I'm like, if Monday was touch and go, and he said he's going to need the days, I'm like, I think Taylor's going to miss out personally. I also want him to start, but I think we're going to have to probably go into it. Hopefully he's ruled out by Company, or we get a league, but we might go into it just not knowing, and we don't see training ground photos.
If what other move I can do, which you haven't suggested? I can do Taylor to Stupinan.
Yeah, but then you're complicating it for. Yeah, you can, but are you then not complicating it for Haaland next week?
Then I will.
Then you sell Salah next week for Haaland, and how much you'd have to buy a really cheap midfielder.
I think I'd probably have to go to Garnacho. Yeah, I think. Yeah, but I mean, it's doable. It's not.
Doable. I mean, it's a lovely
entry not the end of the world.
Estupinan, like it's a good run of getting on Estupinan now. 4.9 million with the fixtures he's got. I was looking at his per 90 stats this morning, mate. His per 90 stat XGI this season is like 0.35. Trent is exactly the same. Reece James 0.34 per 90. Porro 0.32. Estupinan is in very good company.
I mean, you're tempting me. It would, yeah. I would have to get a made of 6.1 or under, which is fine. It's not terrible, I guess. But 6.1 is Garnacho territory, I guess. Yeah, I'm not going to get Douglas Luiz.
Good man. Good man.
I mean, I just can't bring myself to buy him now. I think the time to buy him sort of passed. It was like 4 or 5 weeks ago, especially when
predicting penalties is so tough. Like, you can't do it.
Set pieces as well, though, right? I mean, there were routes to points. So yeah, I mean, I guess I could get Eze next week, but I just think to keep things simple, I'll have to sell Salah.
True.
I mean,
there are also other Brighton midfielders under 5 million that's going to get game times just because of their injuries in Asia Cup and AFCON. So Buonanotte is under 5. He started 4 of the last 5. He won't ever play 90. Moda is going to get starts. He won't play 90 either. And then Hinselwood, who's been playing right back, getting sets of 90 is like 4.5 million. I would also look at Brighton if I was spending under 5 million. They're the best of the bunch because Brighton are a team that score goals.
But again, the tricky part is, let's say if I do Salah to Richarlison and get Haaland for Alvarez next week with for free. I guess I will also buy Foden next week, even if it's for a hit. That's the tricky part because Foden has Burnley at home, right, next week. And I don't necessarily want to be in a position. I mean, long story short, it's very difficult for me to have Trent, Salah, Son, and Haaland in one team.
And Saka and Watkins. Like, we won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
That's why I was willing and open to the selling. I was like, who am I going to drop? I was looking at Watkins' fixtures. I can't get money out of him. Saka, I think his form's going to turn around. So I was like, I was all right committing to the Trent thing because I was like, I know I'm going to want Salah. I know I'm going to have Haaland. I know I'm going to want Watkins and Saka still. And we don't know if Trent's going to miss 1, 2, or 3 games.
I mean, I would have been more open to selling Trent had I had a more clearer route to Haaland.
Yeah.
But with just one free transfer.
That's the difference. Yeah.
It's not something
It's a really tough one. I think if Taylor's out, then Taylor to Estupinan completely works. And I'm surprised. You're right. I was looking at your team without the 1.2 in the bank. I didn't realize you could do that. So yeah, that's a really nice option. Or it's simply sell Salah and then allow yourself one simple transfer next week of Alvarez to Haaland. Because we are all going to want Haaland for 22.
Another thing I can do, and I've looked at this, I don't think this is a terrible transfer either, is I can do Trent to Walker. And if I do that, I am giving myself an extra player this week. I know the entry point isn't great, but at least it gives me 11 this week. And then obviously I have Walker for his upcoming double as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're a step ahead on Trent because very few can get there. So, like, I couldn't spend more than 4.9 on a defender if I was selling Trent to allow for Haaland. Very few have the money to upgrade a defender to Walker.
I mean, I guess I could sort of do that. So, yeah, I mean, I'll obviously give it more thought. But let's say if Charlie Taylor is fit, then I quite like the idea of saving this week.
Yeah, it's a big if though, isn't it? What do you rate Taylor's chances? Have you done any research? Because I was clutching. I found one article.
Yeah,
Like,
I did as well. It was on the Burnley Express, and it said that it was the same quote basically which you mentioned, and
yeah,
it was basically it said that yes, he's gonna, both these players are gonna have more time to recover before the next game, and he sort of said that Taylor's issue was more chronic than acute. This was the
right.
exact quote, and it was company basically who said it, that the issue was more chronic than acute. So I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I personally am not crossing my fingers or holding my breath waiting for Taylor to play tomorrow.
It's a shame. If that was Monday night, well, if it was Monday night, we wouldn't have had the presser and we wouldn't have had a leak. Two things that might be really helpful to us, but it's frustrating because that extra 3-4 days recovery it's a big time frame for a Premier League footballer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Big man. That was awesome seeing a team. I think you've got decisions to make as we all have. I guess having one free transfer this week does
complicate
hinder
things.
managers a little bit. Yeah. So I was lucky that I didn't move to Alvarez, which many did last week because I already had Foden. But the Darwin to Alvarez move made complete sense. And those that did it did feel a little bit luxury and short term because you all knew you were eventually going to replace Alvarez with Haaland, but I think it was still a sensible shout on your part. And still, you're getting tons of green arrows. So you're not in a bad place, but you're right to mention, as you did earlier, variance could be huge because selling Son or Salah at different points, those that keep Trent or don't, the amount of midfielders we can replace these mids with, like Jarrod Bowen, we've not discussed. I assume both of us were highly keen on Bowen, but now that's off the menu, right?
I was seriously considering him as my Salah replacement. I was open to taking open to taking a hit to get Bowen and Foden in, and I sort of, let's say Bowen was fit, he would have been my preference over Richarlison, right? But now it's not exactly clear cut, is it? And I mean, I'm sort of happy with the Alvarez transfer. I do think Alvarez will do well this week. I'm sort of quietly confident. I think he'll outscore Nunes this week. So that transfer was fine. But what really went bad last week was, even though I sort of got a green arrow, so it doesn't really make sense complaining. It was the fact that I captained Alvarez over Salah.
Yeah,
which
that hurt. That hurt us all in overall rank, didn't it? When we saw that early penalty miss, you were like me celebrating that.
Dude, I'll tell you a funny thing. I deliberately sort of planned skipping the game because I had sold Darwin. I didn't have Salah captain, so I thought, okay, I'll go to sleep early. I sort of woke up at halftime. I checked the score, fully expecting Salah to have killed it by then. And I woke up to the penalty miss, and I was like, "Oh my god, what has just happened?" And then the next 45 minutes, goal after goal went in, and I was dreading those points going in, and I was like, "No, is this a nightmare? Is this a dream?"
It's just what Salah seems to do. Like he finds ways in games where he's played poorly or missed a pen of still hauling, and especially late in games. Like he's a bully against the team late on, and just that's why we're all going to want him in 24 back or 25 back, isn't it? Like he's clearly, when he's fit, a must-have.
He's just head and shoulders above.
That's why I'm so close to keeping him.
Yes, yeah.
That's why I'm so tempted to keep him. Are you at all? Do you look at it and go, "Is there a way I can just sell Son and keep Trent and keep Salah?" But then I guess you're not willing to go without Haaland in 22, are you?
Yeah, that's not going to happen, especially because Haaland is going to be my cap again in likely 25. So yeah, I'm not going to take that chance.
When you look at the next 3-4 weeks, if Haaland's fit, we're probably captain him in all of them.
Exactly.
Like, it's when you look at the captaincy matrices and go, yeah, it's just Haaland.
Yeah, it has to be.
Guys, in the chat, do hit the like and subscribe button if you can. That is very, very welcome. There's over 262 of you watching, which is amazing. If you're just tuning in as well, go back and watch the last hour. We've had a really good chat. Dean and I are going to do a stream on Friday around 1 o'clock. So that won't be that far from the deadline. We'll be revealing our teams in that. But for now, big man, any final thoughts from you this game week?
I mean, I just hope I can come out of it with a green arrow because things are looking bleak.
Yeah. I hear that. I hear you there. There's going to be loads of hits, loads of wild cards as well. For me, don't use your wild card unless you feel like you have to. Like, I'm never going to tell you not to do it. It's so team dependent, but if you can hold it, you'll want it in a few weeks. You'll want it coming out of the blanks or doubles. But see how you get on. I don't mind taking hits this week if you have to. Can we see the chaser team before you go? I don't think it's loaded, CH. I don't think we can, but we will definitely spend lots of time on the chaser team on Friday. That is a promise. Guys, that's been awesome. Me and Big Man will be back next Wednesday. Big Man, I made a bit of an error this morning, right? On my channel, I upload my team selection video every Thursday because I know I do chasing green arrows on a Wednesday and a Friday. I recorded it this morning thinking, give my editor, the guy that uploads it, loads of time to upload it. And he uploaded it literally a couple of hours ago. So it's now my team selection. The cat is out the bag. I have sold Trent. I've alluded to it on this stream. I think I've done more than allude it on this stream. I've sold Trent to a Stupinan in an early transfer. My plan is to keep Salah, and I've talked in the video a lot about AFCON. I think they get knocked out in the quarters. If you do fancy watching that, then go onto my channel. It's live now. If you're just tuning in now, go back and watch the last hour of CGA and then go watch it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Go check that team selection video out if you fancy. Big Man, I'll see you next week, mate. Good to chat as always. In one word, who do you think you'll captain this week?
I think it'll probably be Saka, if I was to guess.
Same from me. Good stuff. Now, for now, guys, he's been Big Man. I've been Gianni. You've been the awesome chasers. Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Good luck.
Bye-bye.